Hello everyone, we are from Group 6 and today we all are going to learn about vertebrate evolution. Let's go! The first subtopic that I'm going to present is 29.1, the chordates. At the end of this subtopic, I hope we all can identify the 4 basic characteristics of a chordate and we can name the 2 groups of non-vertebrate chordates, and I also hope we all can describe 2 features of each of the 2 groups of non-vertebrate chordates. So, what are chordates? Chordates from the phylum Chordata are deuterostome. As we all have learned earlier, deuterostome is a type of animal which has 2 openings, which are anus and mouth. Most chordates have an internal skeleton made of bone and or cartilage to which muscles are attached. As you guys can see in this picture, the internal skeleton is called notochord, which we will learn later on. The notochord is attached to the muscle segments. This arrangement allows the chordates to enjoy a greater freedom of movement. Most chordates are vertebrates, which they have vertebral column. Next, we are going to learn about characteristics of chordates. There are 4 basic characteristics of chordate. The first one is notochord. It came from a Greek word which notos means back and chord means string. So notochord is a dorsal supporting rod which is located just below the nerve cord. As you guys can see in this picture, the notochord is resembled in this red color. It's located below the nerve cord. So the majority of vertebrates have an embryonic notochord that will be replaced by the vertebral column during embryonic development. Secondly, dorsal tubular nerve cord. The tubular cord is situated dorsally, which means at the back. Unlike arthropods, the tubular cord is situated ventrally. As you guys can see in this picture, this is the dorsal tubular nerve cord. The anterior portion becomes the brain in most chordates. In vertebrates, the nerve cord, often called as spinal cord, that is protected by vertebrae. The third characteristic of a chordate is pharyngeal pouches. In the non-vertebrate chordates, pharyngeal pouches of fishes and amphibian larvae become functioning gills, while in the terrestrial chordates, the pharyngeal pouches modified for various purposes. For example, in human, the pharyngeal pouches will modify to become an auditory tube. Pharyngeal pouches are seen only during embryonic development in most vertebrates. The last basic characteristic of a chordate is posternal tail. In an embryo, it is a tail, but in an adult, it will extend beyond the anus. In some chordates, including human, the tail disappears during embryonic development. Next, we are going to learn about non-vertebrate chordates, which they do not have spine made of bony vertebrae. Non-vertebrate chordates are classified into 2 groups, which are cephalochordates and urochordates. Cephalochordates came from a Greek word kephalo, which means head. Example of cephalochordates is lancelet. The genus of lancelet is Branchiostoma and it is previously called Amphiosis. For urochordates, the example is sea squirt. We are going to learn about the features of non-vertebrate chordates. Firstly, where does this non-vertebrate chordates located? For lancelet, it is located in the shallow water along most coasts. As you guys can see in this picture, it usually lies partly buried in the sandy or muddy bottom with only their mouth and gills apparatus exposed, while the sea squirt live on the ocean floor. The name of lancelet resembles to a lancet, which is a small 2-edged surgical knife. It looks like this, while the sea squirt is also called tunicate. This is because the adult of sea squirt has tunic, which is the outer covering that makes them look like thin-walled squat sacs. Lancelet is only a few centimeters long. As you guys can see in this picture, it is even smaller than the length of our finger. For a sea squirt, it has a shape of bilateral symmetrical. Next, after metamorphosis, lancelet and sea squirts possesses all 4 general chordates characteristics, but for lancelet, it will develop the characteristic which the notochords extend from the head to the tail, the muscles are segmentedly arranged, the dorsal tubular nerve cord has periodic branches. While for sea squirt, it will not develop any other characteristic, but it will produce the sessile adult with an in-current siphon and ex-current siphon. We will talk about these two later on. For a feeding mechanism, lancelet feed on microscopic particles, which they filter out of a constant stream of water that enters the mouth. This is the mouth, and it passes through the gill spar and slits into a chamber or atrium before exiting through an opening called anthropore. This is the anthropore. Next, for sea squirt, the feeding mechanism is when the pharynx is lined by numerous cilia. The beating of cilia creates a current of water that moves into the pharynx. So when water moves into the pharynx and out of the numerous gill slits, these pharynx and numerous gill slits will act as a sieve for food. Now, we are going to learn more about sea squirts. So, as you guys can see, this is the in-current siphon. When disturbed, they often squirt water from their ex-current siphon. This habit is reflected by their name. So here is the extra information about sea squirt. Many evolutionary biologists hypothesize that the sea squirts are directly related to the vertebrates. It has been suggested that a larva with the 4 chordate characteristics may have become sexually matured without developing the other adult sea squirt characteristics. Over time, it may have evolved into a fish-like vertebrate. Now, let's watch a video about sea squirts.
Kids, wanted to show you something cool. It's a homie of mine called the sea squirt. Check him out. He's a squirting fool. So when you squeeze these little guys and you get one, get a little squirter right here. But believe it or not, they can't feel it. So these guys are actually one of the closest relatives to humans in the ocean. And they actually start their lives with a brain because they need to know where to land and what to do, right? But when they land on something like this here, they start to actually eat their own brain because it's unnecessary to keep feeding that machine that it doesn't need because it's just gonna sit there basically like a plant. So that's how I can squeeze this bad boy, woohoo, and not hurt him at all.
Now, let's proceed to the last part of the subtopic. So, how the main groups of chordates may have evolved. Based on the phylogenetic tree of the chordates, chordates will evolve and become more classified animals, which are vertebrate, gyatostomes, tetrapods, and also amniotes. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Alright, so hi guys, I'm Ranesh Ragupati. I'm now going to continue our presentation on 29.2, the vertebrates. Thank you very much, Akila. Alright, so let's see. What are the learning outcomes? Alright, so upon completion of this section, we should be able to describe 4 characteristics that are unique to vertebrates. We should also be able to identify the different in terms of tetrapod, gnatostome, and amniote, which relate to the vertebrate evolution. Identify the geological era and periods in which chordates and the vertebrates first appear. So as a summary, we should be able to know the characteristics which are unique to vertebrates, know the terms of tetrapod, gnatostome, and amniote, and also basically know about the vertebrate evolution. Alright, so talking about vertebrates, you might wonder, what are vertebrates? Why is it called vertebrates? Alright, so let me answer that question for you. Vertebrates are considered animals of a large group distinguished by the possession of a backbone or a spinal column. Right. So there are many types of vertebrates. It can be categorized into 5 types, which are mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fishes. Right. So vertebrates can also be considered chordates with vertebral columns and certain other features that distinguish them from the non-vertebrate chordates. Right. So you might wonder, what are the characteristics of vertebrates? Let's dive right into it. Right. So the characteristics of vertebrates. There are 4 chordate characteristics as embryos: the notochord, dorsal tubular nerve cord, pharyngeal pouches, and posternal tail. These 4 characteristics have been discussed by my groupmate earlier. But then they also have additional features, which are the vertebral column, skull, endoskeleton, and internal organization. Let's dive right into it. Right, so I should start this off with the vertebral column. As you can see here, this is a sample of a human vertebral column. Right, so a vertebral column is easier known to us as a spinal column. It acts as a central of axis in all vertebrates. So the embryonic notochord is replaced by a vertebral column exposed of individual vertebrae. Right, so this is the notochord, and the vertebral body develops around the notochord. The vertebral arc eventually develops around the neural tube. Right. So remnants of the notochord gives rise to invertebral discs. You might wonder, what are invertebral discs? Right. So as you can see in this photo here, these blue color shape like discs are called invertebral discs. They are in between the vertebrates, and here they call invertebral discs. Right. So what are the functions of invertebral discs, and why is it so important to humans? Right. So it's compressible, a cartilaginous pads between vertebrae, and acts as a shock absorber for the spine. Right, so it acts as a shock absorber for spine, which is very important. I say this because if there is no shock absorber between each of these vertebrae, we cannot be able to walk or stand, because each and every one of these will collide among each other and will cause serious pain, and hence would also crack. So as a shock absorber, the invertebral disc will absorb shock and prevent them from colliding with each other. Alright, so vertebrates are segmented. Right, so as you can see in this human vertebral column here, there are cervical vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, lumbar, sacrum, and coccyx. So hence they are segmented into 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 parts. Right. With this, I shall move on to the next part. Right. So now we are going to talk about skulls. Right. So here are a few samples of skulls, vertebrate skulls, which are fish skull, human skull, and bird skull. It's one funny looking skull. Alright. So skull encloses and protects the brain. That's its main function. Alright. So during the vertebral evolution, the brain has increased in complexity, and specialized regions have developed to carry out specific functions. So the high degree of cephalization accompanied by the complex sense organs. Right, so eyes are considered as outgrowths of the brain. Yeah, who would have thought so? It's considered an outgrowth of the brain, while the ears are primarily equilibrium device in aquatic vertebrates. As we all know, ears are for us to capture sound waves and also for us to hear. So without that, we might not be able to hear. We most probably wouldn't be able to hear. Right. So we also have well-developed sense of smell and taste. Right. So now let's move on to the next. Right. So next one is endoskeleton. This is one of the most important characteristics. Right. So vertebrate skeleton is either a bone or a cartilage, and it's a living tissue that grows together with an animal. Right, so the living tissue is considered a connective tissue. Right, so what are the functions of an endoskeleton? It protects internal organs, serves as a place for attachment for muscles. Right, so for an example, this is a rib cage. Inside there would have heart, stomach, and various others. So if there are there's no rib cage, this most definitely all the internal organs would be crushed when there's an impact. So with the rib cage outside here, when there's an impact, the rib cage would act as a stop or a shield for the internal organs, and hence the internal organs wouldn't crash among each other and cause destruction inside. Alright, so moving on, together the skeleton and the muscles form a system which most rapidly permits efficient movement. So there are two pairs of appendages which are characteristic. Fishes typically have pectoral and pelvic. This pelvic and this the pectoral fins, while terrestrial tetrapods have 4 limbs, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Alright, so now let's move on. Now I'm going to talk about internal organization. Right, so here are various samples of human organ system, which are skeletal system, muscular system, digestive system, which consists of large column and a complete digestive tract, and also we have a closed circulatory system. Alright, so these systems are very important as, for an example, the skeletal system, it provides structure to the body and protects internal organs. And as digestive system, it breaks down food and absorbs nutrients. All the systems play a different part in the human organ system, but it's very important to us, and it is, as without it we wouldn't be able to function efficiently and optimally. Alright, so now let's move on to the vertebrate evolution. So it started back in the Paleozoic era, where the chordates were first distinguished in the Paleozoic era as the first vertebrates. Alright, so chordates appeared suddenly at the start of the Cambrian period. At the end of the Ordovician period, jawless and jawed fish had appeared. Non-vascular plants also moved onto the land. Alright, so now let's move on. Right, so with this, here you can see the evolutionary history. Right, so here is a diagram. You can see that it first started with chordates, and then it moved on to vertebrates, where it started with jawless fish, and it continued with gnathostomes, where it's called animals with jaws, and tetrapods, and eventually amniotes. Right, so fishes. Fishes were the earliest vertebrates. It is also considered the most abundant organisms today, as it can be found in marine and freshwater habitats. Most fishes have jaws which are very efficient to grasp prey. Right. So, animals with jaws, they are considered as gnathostomes, even fishes. Some had bony skeletons and lungs and fleshy fins. These were all pre-adaptive for land existence. Alright, so fun fact. Why you would wonder what is this doing here? Alright, so this fish is known as devil's hole pupfish. It's considered the most rarest fish in this world. Alright, now moving on. Amphibians. Amphibians were considered the first vertebrates to live on land. They evolved from the fishes in themselves. As you can see here, a lobe-finned fish and then an early amphibian. It's funny how it looks like a fish, but it also does not look like a fish. Alright, so terrestrial vertebrates are tetrapods. They have 4 limbs. Okay, so snakes do not have limbs, but their evolutionary ancestor used to have. Amphibians reproduce in aquatic environments, and hence we would say that this causes them to not be fully adapted to live on land. Right. So now let's move on to reptiles. Reptiles, I would say they are fully adapted to live on land because among the other features, they mainly produce an amniotic egg. What is an amniotic egg? Alright, so amniotic egg is an embryo which is surrounded by amniotic membrane that encloses the amniotic fluid. Amniotes, which are animals that exhibit an amniotic membrane, develop within an aquatic environment, but one of their own making. Alright, so these reptiles have watertight skin, which is considered waterproof. As you can see here, all these reptiles, such as alligators, snakes, tortoises, and turtles, they have watertight skin, hence water wouldn't be able to penetrate their skin, and it's waterproof, as water will just be on top of the skin until it's dry. They are also considered cold-blooded, and they all have teeth with the same size for each and every animal. Alright, so now moving on is mammals. This is a cute little monkey right here. Alright, so mammals, they have fertilized eggs which develop inside a female, and they too have watertight skin. This watertight skin is a great feature as it helps them to live on land better. Alright, so after all this, I would like to show you all a summary on vertebrate evolution.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Nur Shamita Rahman. I will continue this presentation and I will talk about the fishes. Okay, for the learning outcomes, you will be able to list several features of Cholus fishes. Next, you will be able to describe 4 characteristics shared by all jute fishes. Next, you will be able to compare and contrast cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes. And the last one is, you will be able to discuss the evolutionary significance of lobe-finned fishes. Fishes are the largest group of vertebrates, with nearly 28,000 species are recognized. They range in size from few millimeters to 12 meters for the whale shark, who is the largest shark. Jawless fishes. Jawless fishes known as adnatans. Their jaws, fins, and stomach are absent. Jawless fishes include headfish and also lampreys. So this is the hagfish and this is the lampreys. For the hagfish are exclusively marine scavengers that feed on soft-bodied invertebrates and dead fishes. For the lampreys are filter feeders, and they also have round, muscular mouth used to attach themselves to another fish and suck nutrients from the host's cardiovascular system. Further features: during the Cambrian origin, jawless fishes are small, filter-feeding, jawless, and also finless ostracoderm. Ostracoderm in ancient Greek is shell-skin. They are armored jawless fish of the Paleozoic. So this is the ostracoderm. But now, for today, jawless fishes have the notochord. This is the notochord and this is the notochord. They also have the cartilaginous skeleton. They are cylindrical, up to meter long, and smooth, non-scaly skin. Next is jute fishes. What is jute fishes? Jute fishes are vertebrates that possess two. We have Dangliostes and also Cacostes. So let's take a look about the characteristics of jewelfish. First is ectothermy. Ectothermy is ectotherm. Ecto mean outer and therm mean heat, which mean they depend on the environment to regulate their temperature. Next is gills. Jewelfishes breed with gills. They have a single lobe, closed circulatory system with a heart that pumps the blood first to the gills. So this is the shark gills. Next is scales. Jewelfish skin covered by scales. They do not expose directly to environment, and also placoderms were armored with heavy bony plates and had strong jaws. Placoderm is plated skin, and placoderm also is a class of armored prehistoric fish. So this is the placoderm. Next is cartilaginous or bony skeleton. Jewelfish include the vertebral columns, a skull with jaw, paired pectoral, and also pelvic fins. Pelvic fins is the projections that are controlled by muscle. Fins help with balance and turning. Muscle help do the most of the work of locomotion. For the jaws evolved from the first pair of gill arch present in ancestral Echinodon. So this is the first gill arch. For the second gill arch, they became support structure for the jaws. Okay, let's take a look at the evolution of the jaws.
Features in the history of birds.
Okay, now for the differences and similarities. For the differences, jewelfishes known as echinodons, while jewelfishes known as nattostomes. Jewelfishes do not possess jaw, while jewelfishes are organisms with jaw. Jewelfishes, their fins are absent, but jewelfishes, their fins are present. Their similarities are they live in aquatic environments. The primitive form of both groups are extinct. Next, they are vertebrates, and also both of them have a cartilaginous skulls. Last one is they show great importance in determining the evolutionary relationships of higher organisms. Okay, for the last one is cartilaginous fishes. So for the cartilaginous fishes, we have chimeras, rays, shark, and also squids. Their skeleton composed of cartilage instead of bone. They also have 5 to 7 gill slits on both sides of foramen and let the gill cover of bony fishes. In addition, they also have many openings to the gill chambers located behind the eyes, called spiracle. Their body also covered by dermal denticle, which is tiny teeth-like scales. Sebab itulah kalau kita pegang kulit jeruk, kita akan rasa kasar. Benda itulah ialah dermal denticle. Okay, let's take a look for the shark. Sharks enable to detect prey because they have the ability to sense electric current in water. A whale shark is the largest shark. They are not predator, but they are the filter feeders. They ingest tons of krill. Krill is a small crustacean. So this is the krill. For the tiger shark, they can reach 6 meters long and swallow anything, include tar pepper, shoes, gasoline, paint cans, and also our body. So this is the tiger shark and this is the whale shark. Okay, next is squids and rays. Their pectoral fin greatly enlarged into a pair of large wing-like fins, and their body are flattened. Their spiracle are enlarged and allow them to move water over the gills while resting on the bottom, where they feed an organisms such as small fishes and mollusks. Mollusks is gastropod or bivalve. So this is squids and rays. For the stingrays, They have a whip-like tail that has serrated spines with venom gland at the base. Their whip-like tail is just like a defensive weapon, but it can deliver a harmful or even fatal one. For the manta rays, they are harmless, oceanic, and also filter feeding. Some species of stingrays can deliver an electric shock that located at the base of their pectoral fins. They also can discharge over the 300 rope. So this is the manta ray, and this is the sawfish. Sawfish include in stingrays. Okay, the last one is chimaras. Chimaras are called redfishes. They live in cold marine water and also known for their unusual shape and iridescent colors. So this is the chimaras. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Aya and I'm going to continue with bony fishes. So, what is bony fishes? Bony fishes is a vertebrate belonging to the class of fish called Osteichthyes that have a bony rather than cartilaginous skeleton. That means the endoskeleton of bony fishes are made from bone, not cartilage. Majority of living vertebrates, approximately 25,000 species, are bony fishes. Majority of fish species are ray-finned bony fishes with fan-shaped fins supported by a thin bony ray. So what is ray-finned bony fishes? It is a group of bony fishes with fins supported by parallel bony rays connected by webs of thin tissue. So their size can be less than 7.5 mm long, such as gobies, and can be more than 4 meter long, such as giant sturgeon. Bony fishes are also the most successful and diverse species. They have herrings, a filter feeders fish, trout are opportunists, and predaceous carnivores such as barracudas. Piranha also predaceous carnivores. These are another example how diverse bony fishes are. It can be seahorse and also lionfish. Next, we proceed to the anatomy of a ray-finned fish. So why there are bony fishes is because here they have a bony vertebrates. So that's why they are bony fishes. And they also have a gills here. Their gills is covered by operculum. What is the function of gills? Gills are to help them breathe in water. Gills are equivalent to our lungs. Next, they have swim bladder. Here, a swim bladder can help the buoyancy of the fishes. They also have dorsal fins at the top here, anal fin here, anal fin, and pelvic fins. Their tail is called caudal fins here. So, despite their diversity, bony fishes have many features in common. First, the lack of external gill slits. Instead, their gills are covered by operculum. So, here is the operculum. And this is their gills. Second, they have swim bladder. So, swim bladder can alter the pressure to change buoyancy. If the fish with a swim bladder disorder, the fish can float nose down, tail up, or can float to the top or sink to the bottom. Third, they have single loop closed cardiovascular system. In fish, the heart only has one atrium and one ventricle. So how is the blood flow? First, ventricle carries fully deoxygenated blood to gills capillaries to be oxygenated here. And then the artery will carry fully oxygenated blood from gills to various parts of body. When the cells use the oxygen, the oxygenated blood returns to the atrium to the heart bag. So, next, the majority of them undergo external fertilization, where the male sperm fertilize the female egg outside of their body, outside of the female body. So last, they have separated sexes. Now, we are going to compare and contrast between cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes. So, both of them have a single loop closed cardiovascular system and have a very well developed brain. So, what is the difference between both of them? Cartilaginous fishes, endoskeleton is made up of cartilage, while endoskeleton of bony fishes is made up of bone. Cartilaginous fishes is under the chondrites class, while bony fishes is under the class of Osteichthyes. The reproduction of cartilaginous fishes is internal fertilization, but reproduction of bony fishes is external fertilization. Last, cartilaginous fish have 5 to 7 gill slits, but bony fishes only have 4 pairs of gills. Now, we move on to lobe-finned fish. So, lobe-finned fish have fleshy fins supported by bones. So, here we can see the bone in their fins. Here and here, we can see the bones. So, ancestral lobe-finned fish gave rise to modern-day lobe-finned fish, which are lungfishes and amphibians. For your information, lungfishes have lungs for gas exchange. Lungfishes and amphibians are grouped together as the Sarcopterygi. For lobfishes, there are only 2 species of them, called the coelacanths. For lungfishes, there are only 6 species of them are known. They were spotted in Africa, South America, and Australia. So this is the lungfishes, Australian lungfishes, South America lungfishes, and Africa lungfishes. So these are the special characteristics of coelacanths. First, they can detect prey in the dark by detecting electric currents. Second, they have hinge joints in the skull which allow the fish to widen its mouth for large prey. Here, bony vertebra is connected with their head. Third, they have paired lobe fins that extend away from its body like legs, here and here. So, the last one is, they move in an alternating pattern, like a trotting horse. So here is the video of coelacanths and the video of fish evolution.
They're like arms sculpting the water.
The coelacanth's paired fins move as if it's walking through the water. Its distinct and powerful 3-lobed tail is found on no other living creature on Earth.
You've probably heard that every bony land-dwelling creature on Earth evolved from fish that grew limbs and crawled out of the water many million years ago. And yet, over 99% of the fish in today's oceans, lakes, and rivers have incredibly delicate fins, formed by a series of spines covered by a thin web of skin. It's hard to imagine fins like those evolving into sturdy, weight-bearing limbs, because they didn't. But the fins of a far more foreign fish did. Very soon after bony fishes first evolved, they branched into 2 groups, those with flimsy ray-type fins and those with more meaty appendages that were attached to their bodies by a single strong bone. At first, those so-called lobe-finned fishes far outnumbered their ray-finned relatives. But just as some of them were becoming adapted for life in the weedy shallows, global climate fluctuations caused a mass extinction that devastated life in the oceans. After the catastrophe, the ray-finned fishes recovered and took over the seas. The lobe fins never recovered, but a few survivors in the shallows managed to find their footing out of the water and eventually gave rise to every backboned, 4-limbed creature to ever crawl, hop, fly, or walk.
That's all from us. Thank you.